My name is Lawrence Murch. I'm chairman of the Appeals Board in the town of Raymond, Maine. And this is Monday, May 21st at 7 p.m. on the year of 2018. And on the agenda tonight is number 1, call to order, which I just did. Number 2 is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 30th of 2018. Do I hear anybody say they want to approve those meetings?
I wasn't here. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I didn't receive those minutes.
I don't think I
There are no minutes. I didn't get them done, I'm sorry.
Very good.
All right.
Okay, so
Well, we'll do those next
Table
meeting,
that, yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And number 3 is new business. This is the application of Justin Haywood to turn a presently used, or was presently used church from 1960 until a few years ago at 584 Webb's Mills Road. He wants to turn it into a duplex house. And what I would like to do is have Justin Haywood stand, go to the lectern, identify himself, and then I will ask, give us a short Reader's Digest version of what he proposes to do. Then I will ask if there is anyone here who is in favor of what he wants to do, and then anyone that is against what he wants to do. And then I would like to start from the far right to each member of the board and they'll go through and they will ask any questions and concerns they have, and then we'll end up with our code enforcement officer, and then we'll see where we go from there. Okay.
Yes, my name is Justin Hayward. I'm the owner at 584.
Please speak up.
Oh, certainly. Can you want me to just speak into the microphone or just? Hello?
I think it's just for recording.
Yeah, the microphone's good.
Microphone's fine?
Microphone,
Yeah. So my name is Justin Hayward. I'm the owner at 584 Webb's Mills Road in Raymond. And I purchased the parcel as a church. And what I intend to do is convert it into a 2-unit residential component that I feel will better suit the neighborhood as it conforms more with what is already in the neighborhood. I intend to keep the existing structure as it is for the most part. The footprint of the building will not increase. I will be actually reducing the front of the building back, as you can see on the plans, that will be actually flush with the existing front of the building. In order to put a 2-car or 2 1-car garage in the middle of the structure. And I will be, I've already obtained a permit from the Department of Transportation to do so, as well as I've obtained, a variance from the state to install a septic system in the rear of the property, in between the back of the building and the property line. And then I intend to install a well on the front of the property as well. And that's pretty much the short version.
Thank you very much. Do I have anyone here that would like to speak in favor of what Justin Haywood would like to do? All right. Then do I have anyone here that would like to speak against what Justin Haywood would like to do? You raised your hand first. Would you go to the lectern and tell us what your objections are?
Hi, my name is Greg Gagne, and I own one of the cottages behind the church. And before I start, I just want to say I have nothing against what Mr. Haywood wants to do. He has a great idea, but just not in that location. I mean, if you don't really know how busy it is down there, you should before you have this move forward. He wants to create 2 units, which already takes up 2 parking spots in front of his garage driveway. And as anybody knows, if you have a place at the lake, you're going to have visitors. So it's not hard to say that he could have 2 more vehicles from each unit every weekend. It's very easy to say. I know I have plenty of visitors. So that would take up a total of 6 parking spots in already a crowded, very crowded area. You've got kayakers and now paddle boards. There's an enormous amount of activity for that recreation. I see it all the time. So does anyone in the neighborhood. And don't take my word for how busy it is. Go ask the neighborhood. So I just think it's way too dangerous to do what he wants to do. He says he has a turnaround when you back out of your garage into in front of the church. But let's face it, I have a garage and my car stays out all day long until I put it to bed at night. So as he's backing out of one spot in his garage, there's no possible way he can swing the front end of his vehicle on either side if there's another car in the way. So you can't back up into that turnaround to drive out. And as I said before, it's so busy down there, if he's trying to back out into oncoming traffic, it's hazardous. He can't see up the road around the curve or the other side where the hill coming down is. Vehicles are on you in 2 seconds, and it's very, very dangerous. When they're going by that area, they're looking at the beach. They're not looking at his driveway. And I don't think this should go forward because of that reason. And if, God forbid, something really dangerous and bad happens there, the town is open for a lawsuit for letting this happen, because it shouldn't happen at that location. So, I'm still hoping that somehow the town will acquire the property and make a parking lot safer for the whole community there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here that, young lady, would you go to the lectern and express your views?
Thank you. My name is Sandra Falsey. I own the property at 586 Webbs Mills Road. I also hold a DOT permission from the DOT to have a curb cut between my driveway and the property line of the church because I own the vacant lot behind, and I have no access to that vacant lot. I'm concerned about a few things. I would hope that a survey, which would include pins, would be required on this, because it's such a tight piece of property that my concern is where my curb cut driveway would go could be right next to his well, and I'm not sure whether or not that's an issue. I mean, I'd be taking out some pretty big trees. I also agree with Greg about the traffic down there and the turning about, that I don't understand how, if he has one person in the garage and one person in his spare spot, how anybody's going to be able to go any way but out, rear end out. And I just think it's very, I think it's dangerous. And I'm also concerned that if there's more traffic that's parked on the road, it's going to impact anybody leaving my two driveways in terms of their sight, their ability for sight.
Well, thank you very much. Do I have anybody else here that would like to speak against the project? This young man in the gold shirt.
Hello, my name is Dick Martell, and I'm actually the president of the Association for the Crescent Light Cottages. And agreeing with Greg and Sandy, the big concern I have is safety. I live here, I move out usually around Memorial Day, and I'll stay here until after Columbus Day. And I've seen the sheriff's departments parked out front, constantly just chasing speeders back and forth. I could sit there for 2 or 3 minutes. It's nonstop as far as people speeding through that area. So the concern with the driveway and the turnaround is a real concern for safety. The other issue I want to mention is, if you go down there on a weekend, there's boats and trailers parked both sides of the roads up and down. If he puts a driveway in, we're going to lose more parking spots. Where are these boats going to go? Are they going to have to go on the trailers up on Plains Road? Now you get another safety issue. There was a major accident on the corner of Plains Road and Webbs Mills Road last summer, where somebody didn't hit the turn. So I just think the congestion and the safety of the citizens of Raymond The people who live in our development, we have over 20 people living in the Crescent Lake cottages. It's a really safety concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here that would like to speak against what Justin Haywood would like to do? Nate White.
Nathan White from Raymond Public Works. Reviewing this stuff with DOT, I've got a lot of issues with the traffic flow, echoing everything he said. Parking's going to be a big issue down there. It's just a mess in the summer. I've got a couple of calls into DOT. They have not returned my calls on the permit. I haven't got a lot to go on other than I don't think this is a good idea at all. When it was a church, you had Sunday parking there for a couple hours and they went away. And I just don't see anything safe about this at all. We've already got a lot of problems with traffic there now. I think this is going to add more problems.
Thank you very much. Do I have anybody else that would like to speak against that which Justin Haywood would like to do? Seeing none, now we will go on to, is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of that which Justin Haywood would like to do? Nobody wants to speak in favor. All right, what I'd like to do is start at the very end and ask the last member down there about any questions or concerns that he would like to bring up about this project.
Well, one of my concerns was with the parking. I know what it's like down through there, especially on a Sunday morning. Where I used to be on the fire department, we'd have a call and it'd be almost impossible to get down through there. So I know where these people are coming from when they're talking about the parking issues. That's my biggest concern, is the parking.
Okay. The next member. Thank you.
I have several concerns and questions. I read over carefully from the state about your septic system and well.
Sure.
And I see that it's approved, but my question is, how are you gonna get trucks in there to do that work?
I don't need to get trucks in there.
Are the neighbors gonna allow
A mini
it?
excavator and a bobcat will be able to carry the dirt and excavate the dirt if we need to behind the building.
Without,
Yep.
okay. I also have the same concerns as everybody else regarding the traffic problem, and I'd also like to mention that not only people park there for Crescent, a lot of people go into Panther from there. So there's a lot of traffic. This past weekend I drove by and there were at least 6 or 7 boats with trailers parked by the beach and past the ramp. I'd like to ask this question to Nathan. Is it legal to back out on Route 85? Isn't that a state road?
Well, yes, it is a state road, state maintained down through there. And all that parking is in the state right away. I don't know the correct answer to that, other than I don't think it's a good idea to back out on 85. It never is.
Well, I know it's illegal to back out on a state highway, but I don't know if that's considered a...
If that is fact, that is it's state aid road, which would be considered a state highway. That is correct.
I think we need to look into that. I'm just going to throw out some things that maybe will stick. I thought, could the town ask the Boy Scouts if they would allow parking in their lot? They've got plenty of room, and maybe they could even charge a couple of bucks and make some money. Just a thought to get all that traffic off the road.
To park up on Plains Road at the Boy Scout
Yeah.
camp, that would have to be asked from the town manager, I would think.
Okay.
Yes.
Again, it's a suggestion. That's really all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, we will move on to Joanne Stinson. Will you have your concerns?
Yes, I have some questions. Scott, the current, we're here to address a change of use, and the current use is as a church, maybe / meeting house. That's,
It's basically like you look at it as a commercial, you're switching it over to a residential.
right, so it's going, It's currently a non-conforming use,
Non-conforming use in a non-conforming structure,
trying to switch to a conforming use
on a non-conforming
on a,
structure.
in a non-conforming structure.
Yes.
The question is also regarding the boat launch. I couldn't find anyone here, and I don't know if Nathan knows or if you know, are there any town ordinances that say how many parking spaces need to be allotted? Is this current boat launch that we have conforming, non-conforming? Is there anything about that?
The boat launches, they kind of get into parking areas. Kind of breaks it down a little bit, but let's see, for boats. Cluster parking, typical boat launch follows facilities, parking space, a vehicle minimum of 10 feet. They just go into the dimensions. It just says shall be adequately sized for the proposed use.
So has there ever been any definition as to whether this current boat launch, given the way it's set up, the parking on the side of the road, is it conforming to our ordinances?
I'm gonna have to say that not knowing, but just by the parking spaces that are down there, it's really non-conforming as far as parking that's down there. I mean, just by what you see on some of the other parking areas, it's quite minimum, if non-conforming completely.
Right, so I'm wondering if by allowing this project, if we're actually making the boat launch more non-conforming, which we can't make a structure, we can't make anything more non-conforming. We can make things more conforming, non-conforming, but
Yeah, that one,
I don't know who could address that, or is it the planning board that deals with the boat launch, or who would
well,
have?
I don't know if the boat launch would be, it's possible that that would go through the planning board. Because a lot of times if something like that, put it this way, if it was to go in today, they would have to do a parking analysis. Do they have enough room right now to go through? Like I said, we talked about whether or not they have enough right now. There is a formula. I have not gone to look at that to see what would need to be allowed, or if that's something that I do, or would that be something that I would have to get the town planner to do, as far as regards as to whether or not that's conforming now, or are we making it more non-conforming?
Right. And a lot of that is because I'm hearing a lot of concerns, which I understand, and questions about parking down there. And I'm struggling with that. If there's nothing that we have to do with parking, there's no set amount of parking that has to be there. Currently, it's a church. Are there the history of this property, were there ever any conditions put on it regarding the parking? For example, if we did not change the use and it stayed as its current use, who's to say that the next person that comes in and uses that would only be there on Sunday mornings every week? Why couldn't they be there any day of the week and use all the parking if they want?
Well, there really isn't much history as far as the building folder. Most of that, as far as with the church, there was no written anything about having any issues with parking. I did talk to one of the one woman that lives next to it said that at one time there wasn't, maybe not church, but they had an event there and a couple people did park. However, it was more of a verbal, yes, you can park there for now, on the back side of the church. But I think it was only, I don't know how many cars were there or anything, but that's the only record, I guess you'd want to say, of parking down there.
And do we have the authority on this board, for example, to say this would not be a duplex? It could be a smaller structure where there's ample room for a drive out back and turn around?
Well, the only thing it has, if you change the use of non-conforming structure, it says the Board of Appeals shall require, recommend documentation. It goes down to probable effects on public, I mean, regarding the probable effects on public health and erosion, but it really doesn't go into the safety issue that we're discussing right now. For something like that, I don't know, I would probably contact the town's attorney as to whether or not we do have jurisdiction on that. Because there's nothing in here saying regards to public safety. But it definitely is something worth, that we could find out.
And with this project, hypothetical, if it were approved, is there any other, besides yourself issuing permits, is there any other board or anyone else that would be involved in this?
Not for this, no.
Okay. I think that's it for now, Larry.
Okay. Now, Patricia Beaton, we will hear from you.
Thank you. Well, everything that I've noted has already been discussed. My biggest concern is that we do need to have the state, the town attorney take a look at this, just to ensure that our T's are crossed, I's are dotted, and that we don't make a decision based on what we see but might be missing something, and that at any point the town could somehow be liable or at fault or come back to haunt us. So
Okay.
I would move that we wait to make a final decision till we talk to her.
Okay. Any
That's
more?
what, that's
Okay.
it for me.
All
But
right.
everything
Now,
else.
I'd like to ask Scott Warshak, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, as far as ordinance-wise, I mean, he's allowed, the non-conforming use would basically be up to you. It's a non-conforming structure. As far as concerns on me, I kind of got to go with what the ordinance says, and there's really nothing has to do with, that I can see safety-wise, but I'm not so sure that that would not be something that would be something that could be looked into to see if that is a probability. What would be the liability of the town if we were to okay this, given by our definitions in here? You know, is there some, I can't think of the word right at the top of my head, but is there something that kind of frees us from being legally responsible if something else was to happen? Because really all we're doing is looking for a non-conforming, changing a non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. So I don't know if safety would be a criteria, given what I see here. I don't see it, but that does not necessarily mean that public health wouldn't be tied into that.
Okay. Well, now, I'm kind of two ways on this thing. I'm with the people that say that there's going to be a traffic hazard, because I go by there twice a day, and I'm with Nate White. Back in 1960, there wasn't a heck of a lot of traffic in this town, but there is today. So, thinking in those terms, I would be against it. But on the other hand, Justin Haywood looks to me like he's got his ducks in order. He's got a letter from the Department of Human Services and a letter from the Maine Department of Transportation okaying what he proposes to do. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, you do have to go down that criteria. I mean, does it meet that criteria?
Hmm.
You can put conditions on it. You can say it can be approved only if, you know, I would kind of want to know whether or not safety would be an issue before you approved it or not approved it.
Okay.
I mean, you can you can shelve it until we find out. You can also, because we still haven't heard back anything from the state, I don't know if we really will.
Well, if we were to postpone a decision tonight and run it by the attorney, we have an attorney for the board,
Correct.
and if we run it by them and see what they come up with, then we would be protecting the town, and we would protecting Justin Haywood. I think I'd like to run it through, and if we postpone it till our next meeting, there will be no additional fees. So you would just go to the next meeting.
Yeah, because I don't know, it might come back that the state has jurisdiction on that state road, and that may be all there is to it, as far as we just look at the uses, the state looks on whether or not it's safe for him to come out into the road or not.
Correct.
But I would, like I said, it would be something that I would, if you wanted to, we could look into the board's attorney and see.
I think it would be a good idea for the town's part just to look into it, get an opinion from the board's attorney, and then take it from there. And if the board's attorney finds no fault, then probably can't find out what the attorney has to say. That's what we have the lawyer for.
Yep.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Because, Scott, I don't know if you can address this, Nate can, anyone with your experience with the state, because that was my question. He's come in here, and he has a permit, Justin does, and the state says they've approved this. They say there is room to back a car out of the garage, there's room to turn around, there will be no backing into the road. Now, on the conditions and approval, on the permit for the driveway, I don't know if any of you can speak to this, number 10 on the second page. Notify the Maine DOT of a proposed change of use served by the driveway when increase in traffic flow is expected to occur. This does not exempt the need for obtaining a traffic movement permit if trip generation meets or exceeds 100 passenger car equivalents during the peak hour of the day. I have no experience with this. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means someone's going to do some sort of check on traffic there, or...
One conversation I had with DOT on this, I asked about the traffic count, and I got a blank stare. They said, maybe we should do a traffic count. It's your road, shouldn't you do a traffic count before you do a driveway permit? Well, they said, we'll have to get back to you. And I said, what about the curb cuts? You're adding another curb cut. You've already got 3 right there. That's a problem most places with DOT. And they said, oh, we didn't notice that. We'll have to get back to you. They haven't got back to me on it. So I can't answer that. I don't have an answer for that. It's almost like they went down through a list and they said it meets these criterias, and that was all they wanted to do with it.
Thanks. Yeah.
Anything else, Joanne?
Just, to Scott's point, what we've been asked to consider is whether we can permit a change of use
No.
for a non-conforming use. And it says an existing non-conforming use may be changed to another non-conforming use provided that the proposed use has no greater adverse impact on the subject and adjacent properties and resources than the former use. And then it says also to refer, can't be any greater adverse impact according to the criteria listed in section 12, subsection C4 above, which is change of use of a non-conforming structure. So that's where it says there will be no greater adverse impact on the water body, tributary stream, or wetland, or on the subject or adjacent properties and resources than the existing use. In determining that no greater adverse impact will occur, the board shall require written documentation from the applicant regarding the probable effects on public health and erosion and sedimentation, water quality, fish and wildlife habitat, vegetated cover, visual and actual points of public access to waters, natural beauty, floodplain management, archaeological and historic resources, commercial fishing and maritime activities, and other functional water-dependent uses. nowhere in there do I see safety to the road. I guess that's what I'm a little hung up. I completely understand what everyone's saying. I drive through there myself. I'm just not sure if that falls under the change of use that he's asking us for. So, yeah, to your point, maybe that's a question that we need to ask the town attorney.
Yes, because it does say no greater adverse impact, and it does, like you said, it goes down to, and other functionally water-dependent uses. Is the boat landing considered a functionally water-dependent use? That's more like a building than it would be a parking lot, so I don't know, like I said, I don't know how that would be answered as to whether or not that's a criteria that we could look at.
And can I ask a question of people here? Am I allowed to do that? If I may?
I believe so, yeah.
I'm just curious I hear what everyone's saying, and the safety concerns, would those still be the same if this were a driveway just like on each side of where the church sits now, where there's room to drive in back and turn around? So if this were not a duplex that took up the whole lot and there was actual space to turn around, would you have the same opposition?
If you could drive out of there, it wouldn't be that much of an issue, except for loss of parking spots in front. But the land that he wants to create is a turnaround coming out of your garage. DOT, if I'm not mistaken, owns 30 or 33 feet from the center of the road on each side. That takes up more than half of his turnaround that he wants to create. And that means that if the DOT owns that land, anyone can park there. So there goes his turnaround, existing turnaround now. He's constantly gonna have to be backing out into the roadway. And believe me, you don't wanna back out there in the summertime. Ask the neighborhood before you vote.
No, and this is, you can see the dilemma with, if the state gives the
The state, I'm
permit,
sure, didn't come down and look at that in the summertime.
and I don't wanna argue with you about that. All I can
just
say is
saying.
we can only go by the permit that they've
Right.
issued, and
But
I
this is
need
a-
to understand if they're the overruling authority on that.
This
And
is
we
a common
can't,
sense approach. Do what's right.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, we can get clarification from the town attorney, I think would be the best route.
okay.
Okay.
And
Then, I would like to make a motion that Scott Voshak contact the town attorney and get our lawyer's opinion of what we should be considering and what our liabilities would be and the liabilities of the town.
Mm.
Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Do we have a vote?
Just a quick question,
Sure.
would she actually come to the next meeting to
It
address
would
our questions?
probably be a written statement.
Okay.
That's most probably what I would ask for, unless you think you would have more questions, but I think we're just more concerned about, is the town going to be liable, even if we just look at it as a change of use, are we liable or not in this decision as far as safety?
Okay, yes.
Well, in addition to getting an answer from the attorney whether or not the public health is, covered, so we can move on and address whether it's, going to meet the other criterias, is getting an answer from the DOT, that answer that hasn't come yet. I think that would be,
It would be nice, I just
Yeah,
don't know if we're
that
really
would-
gonna get one.
that would be nice, because it is, because safety, public safety is, everyone's concern, and if we could at least address that concern and then be able to,
I mean,
move
that
on.
could be something that could be proposed to the attorney too, as far as how much of the state's jurisdiction does now, when they issue a driveway permit, like I said, that we issue a driveway permit is more of a liability on them than us, or what it, and like I said, and most important, I just wanna know if criteria that we can look at. And then if it isn't, then you've gotta look at it just as strictly as a change of use.
Go back to just looking
Yeah.
at the criterias and moving on.
Yeah. Because if the state comes back and say this is all theirs, and the town attorney says all you have to look at is just the change of use, and the public safety is not the criteria as far as public health, then you have to vote according to the.
You're satisfied with your question?
Yes.
Any more
Okay,
questions?
thank you.
No.
Well,
I
can we?
I do have one other one. I'm not sure if someone can answer the question when we come back to this as well. If we are making the public boat launch due to less parking more non-conforming.
That would, yeah, that would. Important that we get that answered.
Okay.
Could I ask one more question from the gentleman that have the little cottages down there that Harry Lassard put in? Up in the corner, there is a little area that Harry Lassard put a fence around. And I see people going down there. Does the use of that little area come with the purchase of your cottage?
I'm not quite sure I know what area you're talking about.
Well, here's the beach that the public uses. Then there is a fence
Oh,
that
that's our private beach area.
that is does
That's
that,
the
the use
association
of,
that owns
does the
that.
use of that come with the deed to each of your
Yes,
cottages? So that is for all the people that bought a cottage. I just.
correct.
Yeah, how that was set up, yeah. Can we have a vote? All in favor of getting an opinion from the board's attorney? Will raise their hand. We will get an opinion from the town's attorney. And we will carry it through to the next meeting, and we'll all be here, and there'll be no further charges when we carry it over, and we will see where we go from here. And I thank you all for coming. It's been an enjoyable evening, and I
Thank you.
liked hearing your talks. Okay, now we will go on to number 4, communications from the Code Enforcement Officer.
We have nothing coming up, however, there may be something, I just don't know if it's going to be in time for appeal for next month. It has to do with basic right now, they just said that they would appeal it, but I have nothing paper-wise yet,
Okay,
no applications.
but now if you meet with Mary Costa, getting an opinion from her, will these people be here for next month's meeting?
And you mean the gentleman that was here tonight?
Yes.
It's up to him whether or not, but I mean, we'll be voting on it, but I would think he would be here.
Okay, so we will have a meeting next month
Yep.
to take this up,
Yep.
with an opinion from the girl, yeah.
Yep.
That next meeting would be June 25th, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
My die.
What?
What is the application for that one?
June 25th, the application deadline is the 25th of May.
Okay.
This is the 21st.
All right, so it might make it hard. But other than that, there isn't anything, like I said, no applications or anything at this time.
Okay, then, no more communications from Scott Woshak. I know how to pronounce that.
I
yeah.
make a motion that we adjourn?
I second the motion.
Can I ask a quick question before we do
Oh,
that?
sorry.
No, it's all right. Do we know when Mary is gonna be able to come speak with us?
Well, now that I know when Steve is gonna be around and so forth, I'm not sure we'd be able to get it next month if we're gonna have this rehearing and possibly another one.
Okay.
But I'll
As I
talk
say,
with her.
If we just have the one item that we've had tonight, it would go very
Then we could
quickly,
do
and
it.
then we could do it then if we don't have another.
So if we find out, the sooner we find out, if we find out by the 25th, I'll be talking with Mary before then.
Okay.
and see if
You
there's a
said
line
she
up
would
next
probably
month.
do it, a written opinion.
Most likely, they would probably write a letter saying what your,
You were not here when we had the Raymond Cape.
no, it was not.
No, they all showed up for that one. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? You made a motion. I seconded it. All in favor? We're adjourned.